The NEDP Information Session is an important part of client intake. In this session, an advisor or other agency staff outlines the high school credential options offered by the agency. This helps clients choose the most appropriate option. The information session may be presented one-on-one or to a group. In this following example session, an advisor meets one-on-one with an adult learner who wants to earn a high school credential.
Hi, Margaret. I'm Janita.
Hello, how are
Nice
you
to meet
today?
I'm fine, thank you. How are you?
I'm great.
So I understand that you're here because you want a high school credential.
I do. I think that it's time I need to go forward and get my high school diploma.
I bet you've been thinking about doing this for a while.
I have. It's taken me quite a bit of time to work up courage to come in for this.
So what made you decide to come in the door today?
I have a job that's really not a very good job. It's only part-time, and my boss told me that if I had a high school credential, that I could probably go into a full-time position and I could get health benefits, and this is something I really need in my life.
Great. Well, I'm glad to tell you that here at Capital City, we have 3 ways for you to earn a high school credential. So let's talk about different options.
Okay.
Okay, so the first option is the high school equivalency test. And this is a timed test that has a lot of standardized multiple choice questions and some extended writing. Have you ever taken one of the high school equivalency tests before?
I took one of the practice tests. I was on my computer and the practice test popped up in a box. So I went through some of the questions, but it really wasn't a very good experience for me.
Okay, do you remember how you did on it?
I didn't do very well, and I think that I know this stuff, but when it was a test and I got all nervous and I couldn't finish and I just really didn't feel good about it.
I understand. A lot of adults don't feel like testing is the best way for them to show what they know. So I'm glad to say that's not our only option. Another option is a high school credit completion program. And this is where we figure out how many credits you needed, all the requirements you still needed to fulfill to graduate from high school, and you can pick those up in our classes. Where were you when you left high school? What grade were you in?
I was in the 10th grade, and then I had some family problems, and so I didn't finish the 10th grade.
Okay, so you'd probably need to pick up quite a few credits to go that route. And that's something we can consider. You can get a transcript from your home high school, and we can take a look at that and see what you'd still need to do and get an idea about how long that would take if that's something you want to consider.
You know, I really don't feel like I want to go back and sit in class with a whole bunch of other people.
Okay, I understand that. And it's hard sometimes when you're working to come to a class certain days of the week, certain times. So I understand that. So there's a third option. It's called the National External Diploma Program. We call it NEDP for short. And it's very different from credit completion. It's very different from a high school equivalency test. This is a competency-based program. So you work through the program by demonstrating that you've mastered these certain set of skills that all adults need to have in order to be considered a high school graduate.
Now that sounds really interesting. I'd like to hear more about that option.
Okay, so let's talk about kind of how that works. There are 2 main phases in NEDP. The first phase that you start with is called the Diagnostic Phase, and that's kind of a preliminary phase where we're making sure that your reading and writing and math skills are strong enough to do the high school level work that you'll have to do in the program. And we also give you kind of a preview of all the skills you'll have to demonstrate once you really get into the work of the program. So you'll do a self-assessment checklist where you take a preliminary look at all those skills and you say to yourself, I know how to do this, or these are some things I'm going to need to learn. And that's both for content skills and for digital literacy skills, because this is an online program. All of the work is completed online. Most of it's done at home. The only time you really come into our office is once every 1 to 2 weeks to do what's called an in-office check. So that happens in the Generalized Assessment phase. In the Generalized Assessment phase, there are 8 competency areas, and you work through those one at a time. And by competency areas, these are things like health literacy, 21st century workplace, consumer awareness. So you'll see that those are not typically academic subjects, but they're things that adults really need to know about to be successful in the workplace or in real life. So you work through those areas one at a time, and you do most of the work at home. You come in every 1 to 2 weeks and meet with your assessor for those proctored in-office checks. And that's basically how the program rolls until you've demonstrated everything in the program.
That sounds really interesting. How long would it take me to finish?
It takes most adults 6 to 9 months to finish the program. Some people can go more quickly, some take a little longer because everyone's working at their own pace.
And after I complete all that work, then what happens?
So there's one other step, and that's that a second trained assessor looks at all of your work and kind of guarantees or confirms that everything that your assessor said demonstrated mastery does in fact demonstrate mastery.
So if my person says that the work that I did was 100%, why does somebody else have to look at it?
Well, that's a good question. So this is a high school diploma. It's a really big deal, and we take it very seriously. And because this is a program of 100% mastery, we want to make sure that nothing has slipped through the cracks. So having two people look at your work independently and make sure that everything demonstrates mastery ensures that you have the skills of a high school graduate.
That makes sense. After I finish all of the work, what happens next? Where do I go next?
Well, that's the exciting part. At that point, we give you a transcript that shows that you've completed all the work in the program. You get a real high school diploma, and we have a graduation ceremony in June, and you can walk across the stage with the other graduates.
That's so exciting. When I left school, I never thought that I would be able to get a high school diploma and become a graduate.
Yeah, that's the most exciting part, and it's not too late.
Thank you so much. I'm really interested in this, so how do I start?
As you see, the information session is not an NEDP sales pitch. The purpose is to provide information to find the best credential fit for each learner. For more information, see the information session outline and the NEDP flowcharts on the NEDP Professionals page.